my chickens! In this video, we're going to be talking about sentence combining questions on the SAT grammar section. You're going to get anywhere from 2 to 4 of these questions on every SAT, and those questions are especially difficult for those of you who struggle with English syntax. My name is Katya. I'm the inventor of the Severson method. Severson method is founded on mastering syntax in order to help you become a better reader and a better writer. I also run a wonderful, amazing membership website. It's called SAT Bible, where I teach live 3 times a week, where you can get direct help from me with your SAT challenges. There's a ton of content. There's live content and there's pre-recorded content. And it may feel a little bit overwhelming at first, but worry no more. As soon as you join, you will get a mentor attached to you who will learn about you, learn about your gold score and your current score, and especially your challenges, your reading challenges, your grammar challenges. And your mentor will then recommend specific exercises to complete, videos to watch, and classes to attend or maybe watch recordings of. With this support, you're going to feel in control of your score and a lot more likely to get the score that you desire. Let's talk about combining sentences. So let's take a look at these 2 sentences. Katya wants to learn Spanish, period. It would be her 3rd language. Currently, these are 2 independent clauses. Katya is the subject, wants is the verb. To want is a transitive verb, so we need an object. To learn Spanish would be an object of the verb to want. The next sentence starts with a pronoun it, which is the subject. It is the subject, would be is the verb. The subject it repeats the object of the first sentence. Katya wants to learn Spanish. It would be her 3rd language. So you see how there is a bit of a redundancy or an overlap between these 2 sentences. The object of the first sentence is the subject of the 2nd sentence. So because there is a redundancy, because there's an overlap, there is an opportunity for us to make the sentence more efficient by making it into one single sentence. And the College Board usually uses about 10 different patterns, and we can lay them out all right here. 10 different patterns of connecting 2 independent clauses and making it into one efficient clause. What you want to keep in mind is that in your final sentence, in your combined sentence, you want to be using fewer pronouns, you want to be using fewer words, you want to be using less punctuation, not more punctuation, less punctuation. And most importantly, that's what a lot of students forget, is that you need to keep the original meaning of the sentence. So as long as you're keeping these 4 in mind, you should be good to go. What I'm about to show you actually frequently shows up on the SAT's grammar section as the correct answer choice. Here at Severson Method, we did our own research and we looked at the last 6 years of the SATs. And contrary to my belief, this was one of the most popular ways to combine 2 sentences. Here's what it was. When you take the 2nd independent clause and you turn it into a noun phrase or an appositive. For example, what would we do with our 2 original sentences? Katya wants to learn Spanish, it would be her 3rd language. Here's what we would do. We would say Katya wants to learn Spanish, her 3rd language. Here you can see you can either use a dash or a comma to attach a noun phrase at the end of the sentence. Here's a real example from a real SAT where this was used. Pause the video and try to answer this question by yourself. If you said the answer is A, you're absolutely correct. The street is a sea of red. The next sentence begins with red again. See? Redundancy. There's an overlap. You're using the word red twice. So what are we going to do? We're going to put a comma after red, and we're just going to say the traditional Chinese color of luck and happiness. That is going to be the definition of red, and that is the most effective way to combine these 2 sentences. There's no repetitions of pronouns. There's fewer punctuation. There's fewer words because we are actually getting rid of 2 additional words. Red is and the meaning stays the same. The second by popularity is when you take the second independent clause and you turn it into a gerund phrase, or as you may know them as participle phrase. So here's how it works. Katya wants to learn Spanish, adding a third language. Instead of saying it would be her third language, it would be her. We are just grouping this together and saying to adding a third language. The comma here is optional. You can either add a comma or not add a comma. Here's an example from a real SAT. Pause the video and try question 13 by yourself. So here we have two independent clauses. Typically, ice sheet, subject, begins, verb, to show evidence of thawing late in summer. Period. Next sentence begins with this, directional pronoun this, that points to something that happened in the previous sentence. It is redundant, so we can get rid of it. This follows several weeks of high temperatures. Well, what can we do to make it more effective? Why don't we take the second independent clause, remove this follows, and replace it with the gerund following? The right answer here is going to be A. Another way the SAT loves to combine two independent clauses is by making the second clause into a relative clause. For those of you who don't know what relative clauses are, please look them up. They usually begin with relative conjunctions, words like that, which, who, whom, and whose. In this situation, for the sake of this example, I'm only going to use which and that. There's most likely going to be a comma in front of which, and there's most likely not going to be a comma in front of that. It's just because with the word which, we always add non-essential information. And with the word that, we add essential additional information. So here's how we're going to do this. Katya wants to learn Spanish. That is her third language. Or comma which is her third language. Let me show you a real example from the SAT. Problem number 38. Try it out. What's the subject in that sentence? It's a very interesting subject. Paying is a gerund subject. Paying for tuition also helps. Helps is your verb. Paying helps businesses retain employees. Next sentence begins with retaining employees. Do you see how there's a redundancy? We just talked about how paying for tuition helps businesses retain employees. That's an object. And now the object of the first sentence becomes the subject of the second sentence. Overlap, redundancy. We want to eliminate that. How are we going to eliminate that? Well, we're going to use a relative clause, comma, which is important, not only because it ensures the skilled and experienced workforce, but also because it mitigates, to mitigate means to soothe, mitigates the considerable cost of finding, hiring, and training new workers. You may ask, Katya, why is it not D? Because T uses a semicolon instead of a comma, and then there would definitely be no comma in front of that anyway. So the right answer, the most concise way to do this would be with C, and we're not changing any meaning, we're using pure punctuation, and it doesn't really make sense to go from two independent clauses to two independent clauses that are separated with a semicolon. It's often not the right answer. So the right answer here is C. Let me show you another pattern. Another way the SAT loves to torture you when you are combining sentences is when the second clause turns into a modifier. What's a modifier, you ask? Well, first there's a video on dangling modifiers where I describe what modifiers are. Please watch it. Then also learn about dangling modifiers, which is a huge portion of the SAT grammar. The way it would look like is this. Katya wants to learn Spanish as her third language. A modifier is a type of a phrase that either misses a subject or a verb. And here, it misses a verb as her third language. Why don't we take a look at a real example from the SAT? This is question 39. Let's take a look. It's a pretty long sentence, so make sure you pause the video and think deeply about the right answer. Most of the time, your eyes are just naturally going to gravitate to the shortest answer choice. And I don't want you to believe that every time the shortest answer is going to be correct. Think about it. Why would the SAT reward you for picking the shortest answer? They want to reward you for knowing how to combine sentences. So if I were the College Board, and I think even if you were the College Board, you would not always make the shortest answer correct answer. So yes, consider shorter answers first, but make sure that they're grammatically correct. They use fewer pronouns, fewer punctuation, fewer words, less words, and that they convey the exact same meaning. But the right answer here is going to be A, as. Another popular pattern that the SAT loves to use is by adding another verb with the conjunction and. Here's how it would work in our sentence. Katya wants to learn Spanish and make it her third language. Here, we have a fanboy but it's not playing the role of a fanboy because we're not connecting to independent clauses. Why aren't we connecting to independent clauses? Because there is no subject in the second clause. The second clause is not even a clause. It just says, make it her third language. We're missing a subject, and here we have a structure where we have one subject and two verbs. And that is a popular way for the SAT to blend two sentences, especially if an object and a subject are overlapping. Let me show you a real example from a real SAT test. During an underwater eruption, steam quickly condenses. The steam leaves only carbon dioxide bubbles and droplets of molten sulfur. Do you see the redundancy here? The subjects of these two sentences are identical. Steam, the steam. In situations like that, the best course of action is to eliminate the second subject and just place and in front of a verb. Steam quickly condenses and leaves only carbon dioxide bubbles and droplets of molten sulfur. There are many more patterns that the SAT uses, but for the purposes of this video, we wanted to keep it short and concise so that you can familiarize yourselves with these different patterns. The plan of action is the following. First, identify that this is a combining question, and it usually will say most effectively combines the underlying portion. Step number 2, identify the redundancy. The reason the College Board is asking you to combine something is because something repeats, something is redundant. Identify the redundancy. Third step, take a look at the shortest answer choices first. Identify whether they use fewer pronouns, fewer punctuation, fewer words, obviously, and whether they keep the exact same meaning. If they do, that is your right answer. If they don't, keep looking. And remember the patterns that we discussed in this video. If you wanted to take this work deeper and work through each and every pattern and look at 4 to 5, 6 different examples of the same pattern, join SAT Verbal. You can get direct help from me and our mentors, and you can ask me anything. You can ask me any questions in the section called Ask Katya. Don't forget, every month you get a chance to win a free month, even if you're in the membership. We can still give you a free month. We pick one lucky person randomly on the first of the month from those who leave a comment below this video. I hope you learned something from this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.